Ambassador Zektor floated nervously in the Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Alliance. His tentacles curled and uncurled in a pattern that every species in the galaxy recognized as deep anxiety. The crystalline walls of the station reflected the light from 1,000 stars, but today their beauty offered no comfort. The Vorthak Empire was coming. After conquering 17 systems in just 3 galactic cycles, their massive war fleet now approached the peaceful sectors of the Alliance. Every military strategist had run the simulations. Every quantum computer had calculated the odds. The results were always the same: total annihilation within 40 solar rotations. "We have exhausted all options," Supreme Counselor Thymesh announced, her melodic voice carrying across the chamber. The Etherian leader's gaseous form flickered with colors of despair. "The Saurians refuse to break their neutrality pact. The mechanoids cite insufficient resources. The crystalline collective remains in their meditation cycle." Zektor watched as representatives from 53 species murmured among themselves. Each had already given their answer. Their fleets were too small, their weapons too primitive, their soldiers too few. The Vorthak had spent centuries perfecting the art of war, while the Alliance had pursued peace, trade, and scientific advancement. "There is one option we have not considered," a small voice spoke from the back of the chamber. All eyes, optical sensors, and sensory organs turned to face Ambassador Chen, the human representative. She stood barely 2 meters tall, a tiny figure among giants and beings of pure energy. Her species had joined the Alliance only 20 years ago, mere seconds in galactic time. The chamber erupted in what could only be described as laughter, though it came in many forms. The Arcturians emitted harmonious chimes, the Bengaloids released puffs of colored smoke, and the Zephyrians vibrated their crystalline shells. Humans? The species that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel? The ones who still fought among themselves over resources on their single planet? "With respect, Ambassador Chen," Thymesh said gently, "your species possesses only 12 vessels capable of interstellar travel. The Vorthak fleet numbers in the thousands." Chen remained standing, her face calm. "That's true. But you haven't actually asked us for help yet." Zektor studied the human with his compound eyes. He had researched their species extensively when they first made contact. Bipedal mammals from a Class M planet, unremarkable in almost every way. Average strength, average intelligence, average lifespan. Their technology was decades behind most Alliance members. Their entire military history consisted of fighting each other with projectile weapons and crude explosives. "What could humans possibly offer?" asked General Kraxnar of the Draconian Republic, his scales rattling with amusement. "Your entire species could fit on one of our colony ships. Your weapons are quaint." "You're right," Chen admitted, causing more laughter. "We're new to space. We're small. We're not particularly advanced." She paused, letting the amusement die down. "But we have something you might have forgotten in your centuries of peace. We're really, really good at war." The chamber fell silent. Several species exchanged what passed for glances among their kind. "Explain," Thymesh commanded. Chen activated her holographic display showing Earth's history. "For 10,000 years, we've done almost nothing but fight. We've turned conflict into an art form. We've weaponized everything from the atom to artificial intelligence. We've fought in jungles, deserts, oceans, and now space. We've fought over resources, ideology, religion, and sometimes just because it was Tuesday." The images flashed by. Humans in every conceivable battlefield, using every conceivable weapon. The other species watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. "But more importantly," Chen continued, "we have something the Vorthak don't expect. We're crazy." "Crazy?" Zektor found himself asking. "Absolutely insane," Chen said with what humans called a smile. "You run simulations and calculate odds. We look at impossible odds and say, hold my beer. You retreat when outnumbered. We sing songs about glorious last stands. You seek efficiency in war. We strap engines to asteroids and ride them into battle. That's not a real tactic, General Kraxnar sputtered. It is now, Chen replied. Look, I understand your hesitation. We're the new kids. Our ships are held together with what you call primitive adhesives and hope. Our best weapon is still basically throwing rocks really fast. But if you ask us for help, officially ask, I guarantee you'll get more than you bargained for. The council murmured amongst themselves for several minutes. Zektor found himself studying the human more carefully. There was something in her eyes, something the translators couldn't quite convey. It reminded him of the look in a cornered Ravager's eyes just before it attacked everything in sight. The humans could serve as a distraction, suggested the Mantis Queen. Perhaps buy us time to evacuate civilian populations. A suicide mission? Thymesh asked. We prefer heroic sacrifice, Chen corrected. But honestly, we probably won't need it. You see, the thing about humans is, we don't just fight to win. We fight to make a point. And the point we'd like to make to the Vorthak is that messing with our friends is a very, very bad idea. Your friends? Zektor asked. You barely know us. You invited us to join your alliance. You shared your technology. You taught us about the stars. Chen's expression grew serious. Where we come from, that makes you family. And humans are extremely protective of family. The debate continued for hours. Statistics were presented showing humanity's negligible military capacity. Counter-arguments highlighted their unusual tactical approaches. The logical collective calculated a 0.003% chance of human forces affecting the outcome. The prophets of Xerxes consulted their probability stones and saw only chaos. Finally, as the local star began to set behind the curvature of the station, Thymesh called for order. We must vote, all in favor of requesting military assistance from Earth? One by one, tentacles, appendages, and energy fields rose. Not all, but enough. The motion passed by a narrow margin. Ambassador Chen, Thymesh said formally, the Galactic Alliance officially requests military assistance from Earth in defending against the Vorthak invasion. Chen nodded and activated her communication device. Earth Command, this is Ambassador Chen. The Alliance has requested our help. Authorization code, Gamma 77. Confirmed, Ambassador, came the reply. Operation Overreaction is authorized. Tell the Alliance to stand back. Operation Overreaction? Zektor asked. Yeah, about that, Chen said, suddenly looking a bit embarrassed. Remember how I said humans are crazy? Well, we've been preparing for this moment since we learned about the Vorthak. We may have gotten a little enthusiastic. What do you mean? Thymesh asked. Well, you know those 12 ships you mentioned? That was last month. We've been building more, a lot more, and we might have convinced half our planet's population to enlist, and we possibly developed some new weapons based on your shared technology. And we definitely didn't strap engines to asteroids like I joked about earlier. You didn't? No. We strapped engines to moons. The asteroids were just practice. The Alliance representatives stared at the human in stunned silence. Also, Chen added quickly, we may have already dispatched the fleet. They should be here in about 40 hours. Give or take, traffic permitting. But we just voted, Kraxnar roared. Yeah, we figured you would. Humans are optimists like that. Oh, and fair warning. When humans say we're sending help, we don't do half measures. You asked for military assistance. You're getting the full human experience. As if on cue, Chen's communicator beeped again. She listened for a moment, then looked up with an expression that somehow managed to be both apologetic and gleeful. So, update. Apparently, when news broke that aliens needed our help, we had some additional volunteers. The fleet is now 3 times larger than originally planned. Also, someone leaked the story to the media, and now we have civilian ships joining up. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, some college kids in a ship they built in their garage. College kids? Zektor's translator struggled with the concept. Young adults seeking education, very enthusiastic, painted their ship to look like something called a shark. I'm not sure the Vorthak will understand the reference, but it's the thought that counts. Supreme Counselor Thymesh's form flickered through several colors before settling on what might have been resignation. Ambassador Chen, are you telling us that Earth's entire response to our request is based on enthusiasm and improvisation? Oh, no, Chen assured her. We have plans. Lots of plans. We just also have a cultural tendency to throw those plans out the window when we get excited. And nothing excites humans quite like being told something is impossible. The Vorthak fleet is impossible to defeat, General Kraxnar stated flatly. Chen's grin widened. See, you really shouldn't have said that. Now it's personal. She pulled up another display, showing what appeared to be social media feeds from Earth. The universal translators struggled with concepts like memes and viral videos, but the sentiment was clear. Humanity had taken the news of an alien invasion threatening their new allies as a personal challenge. Is that, Zektor pointed at one feed, is that humans strapping weapons to a cleaning robot? That's Steve. He runs a pizza shop in New Jersey. He's bringing his delivery fleet. Armed delivery fleet now, apparently. Your civilians are militarizing pizza delivery vehicles? Everything's a weapon if you're creative enough, Chen shrugged. That's kind of our thing. The council chamber had devolved into chaos. Some species were calling for immediate evacuation, others were demanding more information about human tactics, and a few were simply standing in stunned silence. Through it all, Zektor found himself watching Ambassador Chen. She stood calmly in the center of the storm, occasionally checking her communicator and providing updates that only added to the confusion. The Mars colony wants to know if they can bring their terraforming equipment. Apparently it can be repurposed. Oh, and the International Gaming Federation is offering strategic support. They've been simulating space battles for decades. Gaming Federation? The Mantis Queen's compound eyes glittered with confusion. Humans who play strategic simulations for entertainment. Very competitive, very creative, possibly our best tactical minds, definitely our most ruthless. As the hours passed and more reports came in, a picture began to emerge that defied all conventional military logic. Earth hadn't just mobilized its military, it had mobilized everything. Scientists were converting research vessels into weapons platforms. Corporations were retrofitting cargo ships with armor and shields. Even entertainment complexes were being repurposed, with one report suggesting a cruise ship was being turned into a mobile fortress of party-based destruction, whatever that meant. The numbers were staggering. What had started as a request for 12 ships had somehow ballooned into a fleet of thousands, and they were still building. How? Thymesh finally asked. How can your species produce so much so quickly? Oh, that's easy, Chen explained. Humans are really good at 2 things, procrastinating and panic working. We've known about the Vorthak threat for months, but didn't start building until last week. Amazing what you can accomplish with caffeine, spite, and a deadline. This is insanity, General Kraxnar declared. Yes, Chen agreed enthusiastically. That's the spirit. You're getting it now. Zektor floated closer to the human ambassador. You're enjoying this? Maybe a little, Chen admitted. Look, I know this isn't how the Alliance usually does things. You plan, you calculate, you seek optimal solutions. Humans? We grab whatever's handy, point it at the problem, and figure out the details later. It's messy, it's chaotic, and it absolutely shouldn't work. But it does? More often than you'd think. Turns out, when you're fighting someone who expects you to be logical, being completely insane is a tactical advantage. A new alarm sounded through the chamber. The long-range sensors had detected the Vorthak fleet's advanced scouts. They would arrive in 38 hours. The human fleet won't arrive in time, someone calculated. Oh, those aren't scouts, Chen said, checking her communicator again. Those are ours. We sent some kids ahead to draw graffiti on their ships. Psychological warfare. Graffiti? Pictures, words, mostly insults, very colorful. The classics include "Your Emperor smells like cheese" and detailed instructions on what the Vorthak can do with their surrender demands. With illustrations. The chamber fell silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. The kind that came when 53 species simultaneously realized they had fundamentally misunderstood the nature of their newest allies. Ambassador Chen, Zektor said slowly, I believe we may have made an error. Oh? We thought we were asking humans for help, but what we've actually done is give your species permission to unleash itself upon the galaxy. Chen's smile was answer enough. The first sign that something unprecedented was about to happen came exactly 36 hours after the Alliance's request for help. Every quantum detection array in the sector suddenly went haywire, screaming warnings about massive gravitational distortions approaching at speeds that should have been impossible. Commander Vexara of the Vorthak Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devastator, watching the readings with growing confusion. His 4 arms moved independently, checking different displays, running diagnostics, searching for malfunctions in their equipment. Multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace, his tactical officer reported. Count is... The officer's voice failed as numbers kept climbing on the screen. How many? Vexara demanded. Still counting, sir. We're past 3,000 and rising. That was impossible. The entire Galactic Alliance fleet numbered fewer than 2,000 ships across all member species. The Vorthak had spent decades monitoring their enemies, cataloging every vessel, tracking every military asset. There was no way they could have hidden a fleet this size. On the Alliance station, Zektor and the other ambassadors watched their own sensors with equal disbelief. What emerged from hyperspace defied every convention of military organization they knew. Leading the charge was what had once been a human battleship, the UES Crazy Ivan. Someone had welded what appeared to be massive speakers to its hull, and it was broadcasting something the translators identified as heavy metal music at volumes that actually showed up on gravitational wave detectors. The ship wasn't flying so much as dancing through space, spinning and barrel rolling in movements that should have torn it apart. Behind it came a tsunami of human engineering gone mad. There was the pizza deliverance, a former food transport that someone had covered in armor plating and what looked like restaurant signs. Its weapons appeared to be launching superheated metal discs at relativistic speeds. The analysis confirmed they were, in fact, weaponized pizza pans. The Millennial Falcon swooped past, a sleek courier ship that had been modified with engines from at least 4 different vessels. It moved like nothing the Alliance had ever seen, defying physics through what the pilot was broadcasting as pure vibes and sick drifts, bro. Then came the real shock, a moon. An actual moon with engines strapped to it. Someone had painted a smiley face on one side, and what the translators struggled to identify as a middle finger gesture on the other. It was heading straight for the Vorthak fleet at speeds that moons should not achieve. Is that... Thymesh's gaseous form flickered wildly. Is that Earth's moon? Oh no, Ambassador Chen said quickly. We're not that crazy. That's just one of Jupiter's spare ones. We have like 90 of those things. Spare moons, Kraxnar repeated flatly. The human fleet kept emerging. corporate vessels bristling with mining lasers repurposed into weapons. University research ships covered in what appeared to be graffiti and powered by experimental reactors. Pleasure yachts turned into fighter carriers, and mixed among them all the actual Earth military vessels, which looked positively reasonable by comparison. The communications channels exploded with chatter. The universal translators worked overtime trying to parse human battle communications. "This is Big Chungus to Space Force 9. I've got visual on the bad guys. They look grumpy." "Copy that, Big Chungus. Taco Tuesday is moving to engage. Who wants to see if their shields can handle a burrito bombardment?" "Negative on the burrito run. Taco Tuesday. Save those for the finale. Florida Man is going in first." Everyone in the Alliance chamber turned to look at Chen. "Florida Man?" "You don't want to know," she said quickly. "Just maybe have medical teams standing by for the Vorthak. They're going to need therapy after this." The ship designated Florida Man accelerated toward the Vorthak fleet. It appeared to be a cobbled-together mass of different vessels welded into something that hurt to look at. As it approached, bay doors opened and released something. "Are those—" Zektor's tentacles knotted in confusion. "Are those alligators in spacesuits?" "Genetically modified, cybernetically enhanced, and extremely angry," Chen confirmed. "Florida's contribution to the war effort. They also sent manatees, but those are for search and rescue." The Vorthak fleet, for their part, seemed frozen in indecision. Their perfect formations, honed over centuries of conquest, began to waver as human ships simply ignored conventional battle tactics. Where the Vorthak expected organized battle lines, they got chaos. Where they anticipated tactical retreats, they found humans accelerating directly at them while screaming what sounded like college fight songs. "Sir," the Vorthak tactical officer's voice had climbed an octave, "the human vessels are not responding to our targeting systems properly." "Explain," Vexara ordered. They're not maintaining consistent energy signatures. One moment they register as cargo vessels, the next as dreadnoughts. Their navigation patterns follow no known tactical doctrine. Our predictive algorithms are throwing errors. They keep doing something called sick flips that serves no tactical purpose but makes them impossible to lock onto. And their weapons? Sir, I'm reading everything from coherent energy beams to frozen dairy products accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. Dairy products. The ship-designated ice cream truck from hell appears to be launching rocky road projectiles, sir. They're surprisingly effective against our shields. Back on the Alliance station, the various species watched in awe as humanity's idea of military assistance unfolded. Where they had expected a token force, Earth had sent what could only be described as an enthusiastic mob. "Ambassador Chen," Thymesh said carefully, "your fleet appears to lack any form of unified command structure." "Oh, we have one," Chen assured her. "It's just more of a suggestion-based system. Admiral Rodriguez is in charge, technically. But we've also got 17 corporate CEOs who think they're in charge. About 40 gaming clans who are treating this like a raid. And at least one group that's here because someone told them they couldn't be." As if to emphasize the point, a new group of ships emerged from hyperspace. These were clearly civilian vessels. Cruise ships, cargo haulers, even what looked like a flying casino. They immediately scattered in all directions, ignoring any attempt at formation. "Attention, Vorthak Fleet!" A broadcast rang out across all channels. The voice was young, enthusiastic, and clearly having the time of their life. "This is the SS YOLO, representing the University of Tokyo's Extreme Engineering Club. We'd like to test our thesis that anything can be a weapon if you accelerate it enough. Please stand by for science." The ship in question began launching what appeared to be textbooks at significant percentages of light speed. "Those are..." Zektor checked his readings twice. Those are actual printed books on theoretical physics. Knowledge is power, Chen said with a straight face. Accelerated knowledge is kinetic weapons. The Vorthak fleet, which had conquered 17 systems through superior tactics and overwhelming force, found itself in complete disarray. Their formations dissolved as human ships attacked from every conceivable angle and several inconceivable ones. One human destroyer had somehow managed to get above the galactic plane and was now diving straight down at the Vorthak command ship while playing something called Ride of the Valkyries. Another group of ships had formed what they were calling a conga line of death, following each other in a weaving pattern while laying down continuous fire. "Sir!" the Vorthak communications officer practically screamed. "We're receiving a transmission from the human flagship." "Put it through," Vexara ordered, hoping for terms of engagement or perhaps demands for surrender. Instead, the view screen filled with the image of a human admiral who appeared to be wearing a Hawaiian shirt over his military uniform. Behind him, the bridge looked more like a party than a command center, with humans high-fiving, eating pizza, and one person who seemed to be live-streaming the entire battle. "Hey there, Vorthak Commander," Admiral Rodriguez said cheerfully. "Beautiful day for a space battle, isn't it? Listen, we're new at this whole galactic warfare thing, so we're just trying stuff out. Let us know if anything's too much. We've got Karen from HR standing by if you need to file a complaint." Vexara's forearms moved in what his species considered extreme confusion. "You're concerned about our comfort level while attacking us?" "Well, yeah. We're not barbarians. We're just enthusiastically defending our friends. Totally different vibe. Oh, heads up. The Australians are about to do their thing. You might want to brace for impact." "Australians?" "Yeah, they brought their wildlife, weaponized it. It's a whole thing. Anyway, gotta go. The gaming clans are arguing about loot distribution already, and we haven't even won yet. Humans, am I right?" The transmission cut off, leaving Vexara staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew looked to him for orders, for some way to make sense of the madness engulfing their fleet. "Sir," his weapons officer spoke carefully, "what are your orders?" Before Vexara could respond, proximity alarms screamed. A massive shape blocked out the stars, the moon with engines. It wasn't on a collision course exactly. Instead, it had positioned itself between the Vorthak fleet and the Alliance station, a multi-trillion-ton shield. "Greetings, Vorthak fleet," a new voice boomed across the communications channels. "This is Captain Henderson of the newly commissioned HMS Why Not? Yes, we strapped engines to a moon. Yes, we brought it to a space battle. No, we don't have a plan for stopping it. We're really hoping you'll surrender before we have to figure that out." On the Alliance station, the various ambassadors had given up trying to track individual ships. The tactical display looked like someone had thrown paint at a wall. Dots representing human ships were everywhere, moving in patterns that hurt to analyze. "They're not trying to win efficiently," General Kraxanar observed with something approaching awe. "They're trying to win creatively." "Is there a difference?" Zektor asked. "Apparently." Kraxanar pointed at one section of the battle where a group of human ships had formed a giant arrow pointing at the Vorthak flagship with the words "bad guys" spelled out in laser fire. The battle, if it could be called that, continued to escalate. Human ships weren't just fighting, they were competing with each other to see who could defeat the Vorthak in the most ridiculous way possible. One group had started a game where they tried to disable Vorthak engines by throwing increasingly absurd objects into them. So far, the scoreboard showed successful hits with a kitchen sink, a rubber duck the size of a shuttle, and what appeared to be a statue of someone called Elvis. Another sector had devolved into what the humans were calling combat parkour, with ships using the Vorthak vessels as obstacles in an elaborate chase sequence while simultaneously peppering them with fire. "Ambassador Chen," Thai Mesh said weakly, "when you said humans were enthusiastic, this isn't quite what we expected." "Oh, this is pretty restrained, actually," Chen replied. "You should see what happened when someone tried to invade Australia. They weaponized the wildlife and the weather. The invaders surrendered after 3 days and requested therapy." As she spoke, another wave of human ships arrived. These bore corporate logos and were announcing their attacks like advertisements. This bombing run is brought to you by Pepsi. Pepsi, the choice of a new generation and also explosive ordnance. McDonald's is proud to present the Big Mac attack. Over 1 billion served. Justice. The Vorthak fleet's responses grew increasingly erratic. Their precise formations dissolved entirely as they tried to adapt to an enemy that treated warfare like a combination of extreme sports and performance art. "Sir," the Vorthak tactical officer reported, voice hollow with shock, "we've lost 30% of our forward fleet." "To the human military?" Vexara asked. "No, sir. To a ship full of history students who said they wanted to make history by making us history. They appear to be using catapults, actual catapults, in space, launching flaming projectiles. That shouldn't work. Nothing about this should work. And yet we've lost 30 ships to what they're calling medieval revival in space." The human fleet's chaos had an unexpected side effect. It was contagious. Some of the younger Vorthak commanders, raised on stories of glorious, orderly conquest, found themselves drawn into the madness. One destroyer broke formation to chase a human ship that kept flying in loop-de-loops while leaving a trail of sparklers. "Return to formation," Vexara commanded. "Sir, I can't. They said my flying was weak sauce and that my mother would be disappointed. My honor demands satisfaction." Even worse, the humans seemed to be having fun. Their communication channels were full of laughter, friendly banter, and what sounded like multiple competitions for best kill, most style points, and making the Vorthak go, "What the hell was that?" On the Alliance station, Zektor noticed something odd on the sensors. "Ambassador Chen, there's a human ship that hasn't moved since it arrived. It's just sitting there." Chen checked her datapad and grinned. "Oh, that's the Minnesota Nice. They're waiting for someone to attack them first. They don't want to be rude." "Rude? In a battle?" "Minnesotans. They're very polite. They'll apologize while shooting you. Actually makes them terrifying in combat. You never see the passive aggression coming until it's weaponized." As if on cue, a Vorthak cruiser fired on the Minnesota Nice. The human ship's response was immediate and devastating, all while broadcasting apologies. "Oh, geez, sorry about your shields there. Ope, just gonna squeeze past you and take out your engines. So sorry. Have a good day now." The battle had been raging for hours, and the impossible was happening. The Vorthak were losing. Not to superior tactics or overwhelming firepower, but to pure, concentrated human chaos. "Sir," the Vorthak strategic analyst spoke up, "I've completed my analysis of human tactics." "And?" Vexara demanded. "There are no tactics, sir. They're making it up as they go. All of it. Every single maneuver is improvised. They're winning through pure chaos theory and what they keep calling positive vibes." "That's impossible. No military force can function without structure, without discipline, without—" He was cut off as proximity alarms screamed again. Another ship had appeared directly behind the Vorthak flagship, something that should have been impossible with their shield configuration. "How?" Vexara demanded. "Sir, it appears to be a pizza delivery vessel. Our shields were programmed to stop military threats. No one thought to calibrate them for food service vehicles." The pizza delivery vessel opened communications. A young human appeared on screen wearing what looked like a corporate uniform and a battle helmet. "Pizza delivery for one Commander Vexara. That'll be your complete and unconditional surrender, please. If you surrender in the next 30 minutes, we'll throw in free breadsticks and a 2-liter of dignity." Around the flagship, more human vessels were arriving. Not the cobbled-together civilian ships or the enthusiastic amateurs, but the actual Earth Defense Fleet. These ships were sleek, powerful, and clearly built for war. They moved with precision, filling gaps in the chaotic human lines with practiced ease. "All right, everyone," Admiral Rodriguez's voice cut across the human channels. "Playtime's over. Let's show them what happens when you threaten our friends." The professional military vessels began to coordinate the chaos, turning the mob into something far more terrifying, a focused mob. The civilian ships didn't stop their antics, but now they were antics with purpose. Vexara watched his tactical display with growing despair. The Vorthak fleet, which had never lost a battle in 3 centuries, was being systematically taken apart by an enemy that refused to fight properly. His ships were disabled by weapons that shouldn't exist, tactics that shouldn't work, and enemies that absolutely shouldn't be singing what they called sea shanties while conducting boarding operations. "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "what are your orders?" Vexara looked at the display. A quarter of his fleet was disabled. Another quarter was engaged in increasingly bizarre individual combats with human ships. The remainder was trying to maintain formation while being assaulted by everything from weaponized music to what appeared to be a ship-sized rubber chicken. In the distance, that moon with engines loomed, its smiley face seemingly mocking the entire concept of conventional warfare. "Signal the fleet," Vexara said finally. "All ships are to—" "Sir, new contacts emerging from hyperspace." "More humans?" "No, sir. It's everyone else." The ships emerging from hyperspace bore the elegant designs of the Saurian Republic, the crystalline structures of the Collective, the biomechanical forms of the Etherians. Every species that had claimed neutrality, every civilization that had calculated the odds and stepped back, now arrived in force. On the Alliance station, Thymesh's form shifted through colors of surprise. They came. They all came. "Yeah, about that," Ambassador Chen said, looking at her communicator. "Apparently, someone's been live-streaming this whole battle. It's gone viral across the galactic net. The comment sections are brutal. The Saurians are here because someone said their ships looked mid compared to our pizza delivery vessel. They mobilized their fleet because of... comments?" Zektor's tentacles twisted in confusion. "Never underestimate the power of peer pressure and FOMO," Chen replied. "Fear of missing out. This is the most interesting thing to happen in the galaxy in centuries. Nobody wants to be the species that sat out the fun." Indeed, the newcomers weren't attacking with the grim determination of war. They were joining in with something that looked suspiciously like enthusiasm. The Saurian flagship immediately challenged a group of human ships to something called a drag race, while firing on Vorthak vessels. The Crystalline Collective started harmonizing with the human battle music, turning weapon fire into a deadly light show. Commander Vexara watched his tactical display with growing disbelief. What had started as a conquest of the Alliance had devolved into what could only be described as a galactic party where his fleet was the unwilling entertainment. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from the human Admiral Rodriguez. He's asking if we'd like to surrender now or wait until the Australians deploy Phase 2. "Phase 2? He says, and I quote, "You haven't seen what we did to the emus. Space emus, Vexara. Think about it." Vexara didn't want to think about it. He'd seen what the regular Australian forces had done, somehow managing to turn mining lasers into what they called boomerang beams that curved around shields. The thought of what they might consider Phase 2 was deeply disturbing. "Sir, should we consider terms?" his second-in-command suggested quietly. "The Vorthak Empire has never surrendered," Vexara stated firmly. "We have conquered 17 systems. We are the supreme military power in this sector." "Were," someone muttered from the back of the bridge. "What was that?" "Nothing, sir. Just... the ship full of human children is back. They're asking if we want to see their science fair project." On the view screen, a small civilian craft that had been harassing their left flank with paint bombs was indeed returning. Its hull bore the cheerful logo of Jefferson Elementary School Field Trip, sponsored by the PTA. "Their children are here?" Vexara asked weakly. "Apparently it's educational, sir. They're learning about inertia by ramming things." The human fleet's chaos had reached a critical mass. What had started as thousands of ships had somehow grown as more vessels kept arriving. News ships broadcasting the battle live. Corporate vessels looking for brand opportunities. Even what appeared to be food trucks modified for space, because apparently humans needed snacks while dismantling an empire. "Taco Fleet to Human Command. We're setting up a refueling station. Who wants burritos?" "This is Craft Beer Collective. We've got IPA for anyone who takes out a capital ship." "Negative on the IPA, Craft Beer. Save it for the after party. Karen from HR wants everyone to remember this is still a workplace event." The Vorthak fleet's resistance was crumbling, but not in any way their military doctrine had prepared them for. Ships weren't being destroyed so much as embarrassed into submission. One cruiser surrendered after a human vessel spent 20 minutes flying circles around it while playing circus music. Another gave up when the college students managed to hack their communications and replace all their tactical data with something called cat videos. But the real blow to Vorthak morale came from an unexpected source. Their own reconnaissance footage from the battle was being turned into memes and broadcast back at them. Images of their mighty dreadnoughts fleeing from pizza delivery ships were accompanied by text like, "When you order Conquest but get delivered instead," and "That moment when you realize the humans weren't kidding about the space emus." "Sir," the cultural analysis officer spoke up hesitantly, "the humans appear to be winning the information war as well. Our empire's reputation—" "What about it?" "They're calling us those guys who lost to a moon with a smiley face, sir. It's trending." On the Alliance station, the various species watched in awe as humanity's approach to warfare continued to evolve in real time. Where most species had spent centuries perfecting specific tactics, humans were inventing new ones every few minutes. "Are those human ships playing something called Capture the Flag with a Vorthak destroyer?" General Kraxnar asked. "Looks like it," Chen confirmed. "Winner gets to name it. Current leading suggestion is Spacey McSpaceface." "Your species is treating this like a game," Thymesh observed. "Oh, we're taking it very seriously," Chen assured her. "We're just having fun while we do it. Humans perform better when we're enjoying ourselves. It's why our military training includes things like competitive explosion arranging and tactical prank warfare." The battle had reached a tipping point. The Vorthak fleet, designed for orderly conquest against conventional foes, simply couldn't adapt to an enemy that treated the laws of warfare as suggestions and the laws of physics as challenges. One human ship had somehow figured out how to use their shields as a giant bass speaker, pumping out vibrations that literally shook Vorthak vessels apart. Another group had linked their ships together into what they were calling a space train, and were playing an extremely violent version of Crack the Whip with enemy destroyers. "Admiral Rodriguez to all human forces," came across the channels. "I'm seeing great creativity out there, people. The gaming clans are currently in the lead with 42 confirmed disables using only non-lethal pranks. Corporate fleet, you're going to have to step it up. I don't care if accounting says giant foam fingers aren't cost-effective. This is about pride now." The response was immediate. The corporate vessels, not to be outdone by gamers, began deploying increasingly ridiculous weapons. Foam fingers the size of shuttles. Holographic advertisements that overloaded Vorthak sensors. One tech company ship started firing actual computer viruses, somehow made physical, that attached to Vorthak hulls and displayed error messages. But perhaps the most devastating blow to the Vorthak came from the ship everyone had forgotten about, the Minnesota Nice. Moving with polite determination, It had somehow disabled 17 enemy vessels while constantly apologizing. Its captain's running commentary had become legendary among the human fleet. "Oh, just gonna sneak past you there. Ope, sorry about your weapons array. You know, you boys picked a real bad time to invade, what with humans being all unified and such. Can I interest you in some hot dish after you surrender? No? All right then, sorry about this next part." Commander Vexera watched his mighty fleet being dismantled by politeness and absurdity. His tactical display showed a battle that would be studied for generations, though probably not for the reasons he'd hoped. "Sir," his strategic advisor said quietly, "I've run the calculations. At current loss rates, we'll be completely combat ineffective in... Well, we already are, sir. I'm just trying to calculate how much worse it can get. Can it get worse? The humans keep mentioning something called Phase 3, and there's a ship full of retired people approaching that's broadcasting something about showing these youngsters how we did it in the old days. They appear to be armed with canes and disapproval." Vexara closed all four eyes. The Vorthak Empire had built its reputation on strength, precision, and intimidation. In a single day, humans had turned them into a punchline. Their mighty fleet was being defeated by pizza trucks, polite Midwesterners, and grad students who'd weaponized their thesis projects. "Sir," his second-in-command prompted, "your orders?" "Signal all ships," Vexara said heavily. "We yield." "Surrender, sir?" "No. We yield. Surrendering implies we lost a battle. This was something else entirely. This was chaos incarnate. This was warfare as performance art. This was... "Human," his advisor suggested. "Human," Vexara agreed. The surrender or yielding process was unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of formal ceremonies and signed documents, the humans simply started inviting Vorthak crews to what they called the after-party. Ships that moments before had been locked in combat were now docking together as humans shared food, drinks, and stories about their improvised weapons. "You actually strapped an engine to a moon?" a Vorthak officer asked in disbelief. "6 engines, technically," the human engineer replied, offering what looked like pizza. "The first 5 weren't enough. Want to see the blueprints? We drew them on a napkin." On the Alliance station, Ambassador Chen was fielding questions from increasingly amazed alien representatives. "Your species mobilized 3 million volunteers in 40 hours, Thymesh said. "How?" "Social media and a common cause," Chen shrugged. "Someone posted aliens need our help, and it went viral. Next thing you know, everyone with a ship and a dream was signing up. We actually had to turn people away. The Quilting Guild was very disappointed they couldn't bring their battle quilts." "Battle quilts?" Zektor asked weakly. "Don't ask. Just don't ask." The aftermath of the battle was spreading across the galaxy at the speed of communication. Species that had maintained neutrality for millennia were suddenly reconsidering. If humans could turn a moon into a weapon and win a war with weaponized politeness, what else were they capable of? "Ambassador Chen," General Kraxnar approached, his scales rattling in what might have been amusement or fear. "The Galactic Council wishes to discuss humanity's membership status." "Oh? Are we in trouble?" "No. They want to upgrade you to full military alliance status, immediately. They also want to know if humans are available for hire." "Hire?" "The Xerxes system has been dealing with pirates for decades. They saw what your Florida man did and immediately requested a dozen of them. I'll have to check if Florida is willing to export. They're very protective of their unique resources." The celebration on the human ships was reaching epic proportions. Someone had figured out how to link all the sound systems together, creating the galaxy's largest distributed speaker system. Music pounded through space in defiance of physics and good taste. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the main communication channel, still wearing his Hawaiian shirt, but now also sporting a hat made from what appeared to be a small Vorthak fighter's hull. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all configurations," he announced, "we came here to help our friends. We stayed to throw the biggest party the galaxy has ever seen. And I think we proved something important today." "What's that?" came a chorus of voices. "That humans might be new to space, but we've been perfecting the art of glorious chaotic victory for thousands of years. We're not the strongest, we're not the smartest, we're definitely not the most organized. But if you mess with our friends, we will drop a moon on you while apologizing politely and live-streaming the whole thing." The cheer that went up from the human fleet was audible on sensors 3 systems away. In the coming days, as the galaxy tried to make sense of what had happened, several facts became clear. The Vorthak Empire, which had seemed unstoppable, retreated to their home systems and immediately began studying human psychology. Their military academies added new courses with titles like Chaos Theory and Warfare and The Strategic Applications of Memes. The Galactic Alliance found itself with a new problem: managing human enthusiasm. 3 different human colonies had already submitted proposals for Death Star, but with Go Faster stripes, and what if we made black holes into weapons? Every species that had watched the battle began rapidly reassessing their relationship with humanity. Trade agreements were signed at record speed. Cultural exchanges flourished. The Crystalline Collective even started a joint project with human musicians to weaponize harmony itself. But perhaps the most significant change came from Earth itself. The battle had united humanity in a way no politician or philosopher had managed. Nothing brings people together like collectively trolling an alien empire into submission. "So," Thymesh asked Ambassador Chen during a quiet moment, "what happens now?" Chen looked out at the viewport, where human ships were still celebrating with their new alien friends. The moon with engines floated peacefully nearby, its smiley face a permanent reminder of humanity's approach to problem-solving. Now we've got a reputation to maintain. Do you have any idea how hard it's going to be to top this? We're probably going to have to strap engines to a small planet next time." "Next time?" "Oh, there's always a next time. Someone, somewhere in this galaxy is going to think they can take on humanity and win. And when they do," Chen grinned, an expression that had become legendary across 53 species in a single day. "When they do, we'll show them something even crazier." "That's what we're afraid of," Zektor admitted, his tentacles curling in amusement. 6 months later, when the Harbinger swarm tried to consume a human mining colony, they were repelled by what historians would later call the Great Disco Ball Incident. But that, as humans say, is another story. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never, ever ask humans for help unless you're prepared for them to help with maximum enthusiasm, minimum planning, and absolutely no respect for conventional warfare. And somewhere in the void, that moon with engines drifted on, its smiley face a monument to the day humanity introduced the galaxy to their special brand of chaos. As for Commander Vexara, he retired from military service and wrote a book titled The Art of War: Why Everything You Know is Wrong When Fighting Humans. It became a bestseller, particularly the chapter titled Seriously, They Strapped Engines to a Moon. The End. Or as the humans say, GGEZ'd. Same time next week.